2023 has been an amazing year for gaming. We've seen new genres emerge as well as new flavor explorations. And I wanted to take a look at some of the titles in contention for Adult Game of the Year for 2023. As always, all links can be found on my Patreon because YouTube hates me linking directly to games on Steam. First up is Project Passion Season 1. I covered this humorous sci-fi cyberpunk adventure back in June, and so far this title has done really well on Steam. It makes sense, given that the previous game by this developer, After the Inferno, was also very entertaining. Set in the vastness of space, you have just survived an assassination attempt and are looking for revenge. Check out my full review if you want to enjoy better writing than Starfield. Project Passion Season 1 is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, and with an Android version on their Patreon and itch.io. As most of you know, I am a sucker for pixel art, like in our next game, Scarlet Maiden. This title just left early access and already has more than 100,000 copies sold on Steam. Scarlet is the last descendant of the Maiden of the Sacred Flame, and it's up to her to stop the prime evil. As you travel through the dungeons of the underworld defeating monsters, you can gather their sin that allows you to level up your skill tree. If you enjoy Metroidvania-style games with voiced and animated sexual interactions, definitely check out Scarlet Maiden, available for PC on Steam. I first covered our next title, Village Rhapsody, back in May. I love farming games, so I was really excited to try this one out. Harvests, waifus, magical cigarettes, and donkey romance. What more could anyone ask for? Check out my full review to know more about animal husbandry. Village Rhapsody is available for PC on Steam. I recently covered our next title, The Genesis Order. In it, I talk about iteration in music and how developer NLT uses the interplay and various combinations of all of the love interests to create a sexual orchestra. And now NLT has just announced their new game, Symphony of the Serpent. Coincidence? Probably. But I'm totally shipping the idea that I'm responsible for this. Check out my full review if you enjoy classical music and harems with thick women. The Genesis Order is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, with an Android version available on their Patreon. Up next is Paradise Lost, the visual novel dating sim that I've put about 130 hours into. After crashing on a seemingly deserted island, you have to survive by building houses, finding love, and totally accidentally romancing a lizard. Check out my full review from August. Paradise Lost is available on Steam for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux, as well as for Android through their itch and their Patreon. Next up is the Japanese adventure Take Me to the Dungeon. The gameplay is similar to most card battlers, but with the addition of the clothing destruction mechanic. There's actually an interesting layout to the dungeon map where you have to branch out as you explore. It kinda reminds me of FTL. Take Me to the Dungeon is available for PC on Steam. I have been covering games on Steam since 2021. And I have noticed that many popular games from Japan end up releasing on Steam a year or two later. Given that, why don't I start paying more attention to what is popular in Japan on DL Site? Currently, 2 of the top-selling games for 2023 on DL Site are Honeycomb and A Witch of Eclipse. I just covered the Steam release of Honeycomb, Come Party, and it is available for PC on both Steam and DL Site. In A Witch of Eclipse, you are on the path to becoming a full-fledged witch. But in order to complete your training, you must head out into the unknown world and live away from home. This is totally Kiki's delivery service, but unfortunately there is no cat companion. A Witch of Eclipse is available for PC on DL Site. Up next is Kobold Care, a furry farming game. You play as a kobold who has just woken up in a desolate world where you must grow and breed more kobolds. Because if I've learned anything from D&D is that monsters reproduce really, really fast. Explore the map and find new areas that you can unlock with the stars you earn by selling grown kobolds to Jeremy Crawford. You can also play this game online with friends, which can be such a hilarious experience. It is a bit buggy and the controls take some time to get used to, but at least you can explode fish by touching them and pick watermelons from bushes. You know, normal stuff. Kobold Care is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, Patreon, and itch.io. Next is the rhythm game Punkstock Music Festival. You sneak in the back of a music festival and get to meet with all the artists that are performing, hoping for the chance to perform with them. I actually really suck at multitasking with rhythm games because I'll only focus on keeping up with the music and not on the actual scene that's happening. But thankfully there is a sandbox mode where you can enjoy the scenes without the gameplay. There's also a modifier system that allows you to add features that can make the stages easier or harder. Punkstock Music Festival is available for PC, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, and there is a free demo on Steam and itch.io if you want to check it out first. I covered the full release of our next game, Love and Sex Second Base, back in August. This is one of the most in-depth dating sims I have ever played, and there are so many different harem combinations to build, but I talk more about this in my full review. You can get Love and Sex Second Base for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, with Android versions available on their Patreon and itch.io. Next up is another rhythm game, Beat Banger. This time it's furry themed, and I literally can't show you any of the gameplay. But just know that there are different difficulty modes to play, as well as the beginnings of a pretty interesting storyline. It is currently in early access, so don't expect too much content, but hopefully we'll see more soon. Beat Banger is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, Patreon, and itch.io. And finally, we have the sci-fi visual novel Artemis Book 1. Consisting of chapters 1 through 4, you play as the male lead who has been betrayed and is finally ready to get back to a functional life after moping around for 3 years. It kind of reminds me a little of Leap of Faith in how it addresses emotional trauma, the humor to cope with that trauma, and its diverse cast of romanceable characters. While it is primarily a visual novel, there is free roaming and mini-games to play as well. Artemis Book 1 is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, with an Android version on their Patreon and a demo on itch.io. There you have it. What do you think will be the game of the year for 2023? There is still time for another challenger to emerge. Treasure of Nadia came out as early access on Steam in November of 2021, and still managed to be my game of the year. So who knows what we'll see in the next few months. Until next time, no shaming, just gaming. Thanks to all this month's support on Patreon. I wouldn't have been able to do this without you all.